Welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. Well, all I have to say, folks, is Merry Christmas. As you're watching this, it's probably close to Christmas right now as I'm doing this. It is December 21st. And, Christmas is such a wonderful time of the year. I mean, it's a time of giving, it's a time of reflection because it's also the end of the year. And for me, it's also a time to celebrate the birth of Jesus. One thing about me, I'm not afraid to talk about my beliefs or what I believe in. I'm not at all. All right, well, let's get this show on the road and give away a free prize. Alright, now the question I asked in episode 93 of the Comic Hero Show that I did at Crew of Tees in Bossier City is this. True or false? Be safe, be blessed, be a hero have been the parting words since the very first episode. Well, the correct answer to that is false. I didn't start saying that until episode 3 of the Comic Hero Show. And there was only one person who guessed that correctly, and that was my good friend Joe Stokes from West Monroe, Louisiana. So congratulations, Joe. You win a free Comic Hero prize pack. Now, I've kind of changed things up. I've decided to. Because Joe was thinking he was going to get a shirt, and I don't like to rob people of that. So I got this crazy idea that I should give away both a free Comic Hero tee and a copy of a book. So Joe, you'll be getting a free Comic Hero tee, as well as a copy of the Totally Awesome Hulk #1. And that also goes for everyone who has ever won. So that would be Kayla Sheremy, Jake Young, Brian Ferguson, and now Joe Stokes. And so here's the question for this week. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that all the questions were kind of hard. So I'm not going to just make the questions. The questions aren't going to be just in terms of the show. It's also going to be in the terms of comics in general. So here's the question. What planet is Superman from? Now everyone should be able to know that one. Even my grandma knows that one. And that's only because Superman first made his appearance in Action Comics #1 when she was almost 6. So here are the rules. I will take every person who has answered correctly. It doesn't have to be one. It could be 50 people. It could be 75 people. It could be 100 people. As long as the answer of the question is correct. Now, you will all be entered in a drawing. And the drawing will take place in episode 95 of the Comic Hero Show. Now, this is a short week because of Christmas. So here's how I'm going to do it. You have until Saturday morning at 11 a.m., which is December 26th, to enter. And then I'll have the drawing ready. And today's Monday, so I'm going to try to have this episode up by tomorrow, which is Tuesday. So go ahead, and I'll remind y'all of that, of what I asked. All right, now, Bill Scarborough, my good friend from North Monroe, has made another DC vs. Marvel request that is going to be very powerful and very sexy, too. On the DC side, we have Supergirl. On the Marvel side, we have Captain Marvel. These two are going to duke it out in a segment I like to call DC versus Marvel. Hulk! Smash! Welcome to DC versus Marvel. Today, it's Supergirl versus Captain Marvel. To make this interesting, let's use the Supergirl from the New 52 universe. Supergirl possesses superhuman strength, speed, hearing, and endurance and stamina, various extrasensory and vision powers, flight, invulnerability, hand-to-hand combat, genius-level intellect, and multilingualism. Captain Marvel possesses superhuman strength, speed, stamina, and durability, energy projection and absorption, and flight. Who will win? This will make the Ronda Rousey-Holly Holm fight look like two rats fighting. The two would trade punches, and then Captain Marvel tries to reason with her, stating that the destruction of Krypton wasn't her fault. Supergirl then gets defensive and delivers a cheap shot and a series of punches going untouched for 3 minutes. When the smoke clears, Captain Marvel gets up and appears to not have any scratches or wounds. This angers Supergirl, and suddenly the Red Lantern power ring she once possessed returns to her, and she became a mindless Red Lantern. She spits toxic red napalm at Captain Marvel and burns her alive. Supergirl wins. But wait! Instead of dying, Captain Marvel transforms into her gone but not forgotten binary form and knocks Supergirl out cold. She ends it by taking the Red Lantern power ring off her finger, causing her to go into cardiac arrest. Captain Marvel wins, and that concludes this DC vs. Marvel fight. Now, I hope you enjoyed the DC vs. Marvel segment, and there's going to be one more fight request that Bill Scarborough has requested. That will take place in episode 95. And then in episode 96, Brian Ferguson from Wake Forest, North Carolina, has also requested one. That will be in episode 96. Now, by the way, episode 95 is going to be the last episode of the Comic Hero Show in 2015. Episode 96 will be the first episode of the Comic Hero Show in 2016. But if you want to go ahead and request a DC versus Marvel segment, anytime, go ahead. Contact info is right down there. All right. Now it's time for Comically Speaking. So without further ado, let's talk comics. Okay, there's only going to be one thing I'm talking about this week in Comically Speaking, and it's a topic request that I got from my good friend David Oliver, who I was in band with at ULM. It's about the Sam Wilson Captain America. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, Sam Wilson, who was previously the Falcon, is currently the new Captain America in the comics. Now, on the big screen and on a small screen, Steve Rogers is still Captain America. This doesn't, now I know for a fact this doesn't really sit well with a lot of people, but folks, there is absolutely nothing wrong with diversity, period, much less in comics. I mean, for the most part, it does very well. I mean, and there wasn't just diversity. Now, diversity in comics didn't just start this century. It actually started probably in the late 60s, early 70s. It started when they created both the Black Panther and then they created the Falcon, back when Sam Wilson was the Falcon. These were two African-American characters. Well, Sam Wilson's an African-American character. The Black Panther is a character from whose home country is Wakanda, which is a fictitious country in the continent of Africa. Now, at this point, there weren't really a lot of folks who it was really never heard of that the black superheroes, but then they decided to come out with some, and it just didn't stop. And it didn't stop there. I mean, there were other characters that came along, like Vixen, Cyborg, Triathlon, who was previously an Avenger, and then Static Shock, and I can just go on and talk about all the African American characters in comics. But there's nothing wrong with diversity, folks. And I know what you're thinking. You know, for the longest time, Captain America was Steve Rogers, but he wasn't the only Captain America. There were two others. There was the character U.S. Agent, who took the mantle of Captain America, and then the Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes, for a short time was Captain America. And for those of y'all who don't know, let me explain how Steve Rogers is not Captain America anymore. In a previous volume of Captain America, he went up against this new bad guy called the Iron Nail, and he ended up, well, he was defeated, but the Iron Nail ended up siphoning out all the super soldier serum that was in his DNA and caused Captain America to turn frail. And not only that, he ended up turning old, like he was in his 80s or 90s, which is the age he is actually supposed to have been if it weren't for the fact that he was on suspended animation after World War II. And after that, Captain America is always, well, Steve Rogers rather, is always chosen. I mean, has always had a very good relationship with the Falcon. So Sam Wilson decided to give up the whole Falcon mantle and decided to take on the mantle as Captain America. And to me, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you think there's something wrong with that, all power to you. But folks, there's nothing wrong with diversity in comics. There's nothing wrong with diversity in a mantle which for the most part belonged to a white male for a very long time. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So there. And thank you again, David, for the topic request. If anyone else has any request for the Comically Speaking segment, contact info is down there. All right, that's it for Comically Speaking. Now then, let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
All right, first up is the Mighty Thor #2. Now, I just got finished reading this a few days ago, and it's going to be an amazing book. It starts out, now before I talk about the previous issue, the identity of the current Thor is Dr. Jane Foster. And she is battling cancer and dying from it. I mean, she's receiving chemotherapy, she's become frail, she's lost her hair. I mean, it's just sad. But the only thing that's keeping her alive is when she's Thor. And it starts out with her receiving chemotherapy, and then one of the Warriors 3, Volstagg, is sitting in the hospital with her while she's receiving chemotherapy, and right after she's done. But then she finds out that above Earth there were a bunch of such a bright elves from another realm were killed off by Malekith the Accursed, who's one of the Dark Elves, and they end up crashing to Earth, and it took out a weather station that's 249 miles above Earth, and it's just crazy. And then there's also so we find out later there's a whole legion of bad guys who want to destroy who not only want to destroy Asgardia, they also want to destroy Thor. And in the last page, the one person who decides to take on that responsibility is Odin's son's stepbrother, Loki. I knew it was going to be a matter of time before Loki decided to turn bad, because for the past few years he's been an agent of Asgard. But this is going to be a great book. I'm really looking forward to reading this issue right here, because say what you will, but I think this book is going to be great. Even though, I mean, like, sure it's a cancer patient, but so what? It's Thor. And Jason Aaron and Russell Dauterman are doing such a great job. If y'all are watching this, keep up the good work, folks. All right, next up is All New X-Men #2. Now, I just read the first issue to this one also. Most of these guys are spread out throughout the country. When the book begins, the first issue begins, all the characters that are currently, still with the team are Hank McCoy, Beast, Iceman, Angel, the new Wolverine, which is formerly X-23, and Iceman. And Cyclops is pretty much doing the same thing that Jean Grey is doing, was trying to do in Extraordinary X-Men. He was trying to live a normal life, because after all the damage that his older self had caused before his death in Secret Wars, he just wanted to keep a low profile. And then this gang of teenagers who are mutants, they decided they wanted to live up to the same example as the now deceased Cyclops. And then so Scott Summers, the younger Scott Summers, not using his powers, decides to beat the holy heck out of him, and he does. But then they end up coming back after him, and then they start beating him to a pulp, and they forced him to use his own powers. And then they ended up finding Cyclops, and that's how the issue ended. All right, next up is Uncanny Inhumans number 3. Now, I read the first 2 issues, and holy cow, it is amazing. You have Johnny Storm, who's now an Inhuman, as long as the older Hank McCoy, who left the XMen, he is now he's now with the Inhumans, even though he's a mutant. And a lot of things that have gone on, like for example, Medusa and Black Bolt's son, Ahura. After Black Bolt had decided to scatter the Terrigen Mist all over Earth, well, he decided to put him in an alternate time, to have him transfer to an alternate time. And next thing you know, he ran into Kang the Conqueror, and then Kang ended up brainwashing him and getting him to serve his will. And at the end of number 2, we see that after the Inhumans decide to go after them, he ends up wanting to kill them. All right, next up is Web Warriors number 2. Now, I just read number 1, and this is going to be a pretty good book, folks. Now the Web Warriors consist of Spider-Gwen, who, Gwen Stacy, then Spider-Woman, who is Mayday Parker from the MC2 universe, then Spider-Girl, who is Anya Corazon, the Spider-Man from India, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Man from the Cat Britain course, who's Billy Braddock, and then everyone's favorite character from the 80s, Spider-Ham. And I just read the first issue, and they're going all throughout the Marvel multiverse to fight off bad guys on Earth that don't have Spider-Man. And so far it's a great book, and some of these guys are trying to get to know each other, so they'll gel better as a team. But I think this is going to be a great book, and the first issue is great, so I expect nothing but greatness from it. All right, next up is Batgirl number 46. Now, I'm still behind on this book by a bunch because I'm still trying to get caught up with some other books. But as soon as I get caught up, I'll let you know what happens in a future episode. All right, up next is Batman and Robin Eternal number 11. I'm still behind on this, but what I can tell you is that this book pretty much it stars Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, along with Harper Row and Cassandra Cain. And in the previous issues, they traveled to Prague to track down the villainess that Batman had befriended in his early days, named Mother, who also has a bounty on just about all the characters I just named. All right, up next is Justice League number 46. Now, what's going on in this book is the Darkseid War. Now, they find out that Darkseid is coming back to Earth to finish what he started. And along the way, we see the new 52 version of Mr. Miracle. And then we also find out that Darkseid is the father of a child who's half apocalyptic and half Amazonian, and she wants him dead. And also, some of the leaguers, some of the members of the league have been plagued by been plagued to the point where they're kind of like apocalyptic. I mean, Superman ended up absorbing the fires of apocalypse, and now he's like beast mode Superman, and as well as the Flash, Batman, and worst of all, Lex Luthor. All right, and lastly, okay, not lastly, but next up are two issues of the same book that I've decided that I'm going to read, and that's Inhumans numbers 1 and 2. Now, this is a different team of Inhumans. In the Uncanny Inhumans book, you have Black Bolt, Medusa, Beast, Reader, Triton, the Human Torch, just to name a few. But in this one, it's Crystal, who was once in a relationship with Johnny Storm and also was a member of the Fantastic Four when when Sue Richards was set to give birth to their first son, Franklin. And then and this is a team where she leads like some new Inhumans who are pretty much had just been that have just ended up inhaling the Terrigen mist that Black Bolt had set upon the Earth. And this is kind of like the younger, hipper version of the Inhumans. And I can't wait to read both these issues. And now, lastly, Star Wars Vader Down. Now, this is the part one of a Vader Down story arc that's going on in the book. And and this picks up where Star Wars number 12 leaves off. And I don't know, and I forgot exactly what, and I guess this is still before The Empire Strikes Back. But this is also it also spawns. I mean, it's a story arc that actually goes hand in hand with the Darth Vader monthly series that Marvel has, and I can't wait to read this. Now, oh man, I have a bad habit. Like, I'll pick out the books, but I'll forget to I'll forget to count them. Okay, that is 10 I bought, which brings the total number of comics I bought since December of 1997 to 7,085. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. My hope and prayers is that you have a very good Merry Christmas. And I hope you're spending time with family. I'm going to be doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to be reading comics that day. If I am, it's going to be that night before I go to bed. So, my hope is that you all have a Merry Christmas, and don't get too full on the on the food. And I hope you all get what you enjoy. But just remember, Jesus is the reason for the season, folks. I mean, that's just my belief, and that's all. Now, I'm happy to say that right after I leave here, I'm going to be doing something else. And you can probably guess by this hat that I have right here. That's right, folks. I'm going to go see Star Wars The Force Awakens. I'm going to Louisiana Boardwalk to see it. But if you have any requests for the Any Questions segment, for DC versus Marvel, for topics for Comically Speaking, contact info is down there. And also t-shirts. And I haven't been saying this very much. T-shirts are for adults are $12. For children they're $7, and for infants and toddlers they are $5. So yeah. Well, anyway, I'm Victor Nunley. I'm the Comic Hero. And I'll see you next time right back here at Excalibur Comics for episode 95, which is going to be the last episode of 2015. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and Merry Christmas.